Welcome to the second bonus episode of the Everything Podcast. So, if you haven't managed to watch the first bonus episode, which I wouldn't blame you as it's over 2 hours long, um, this episode is not going to be 2 hours long, hopefully. But yeah, so I'm going to split it up a bit more because obviously there was the episode that came out, and then immediately after that was the first bonus episode. I should say I'm recording this on the 7th of January 2024. Um, the first bonus episode comes out tomorrow from when I'm recording this, but when you're seeing this, you'll have already seen it. Like many of the episodes of the podcast, will be the 8th of January 2024. I think I've said it for 10:30, but I think I might say it a bit earlier. But anyway, you should have watched. If you haven't watched it, then please go and watch it. But yeah, this should hopefully be. So what we're going to do in this episode is we've got some more Doctor Who news to talk about, and there will be some classic Doctor Who reviews coming up soon. But before we get to that, here is the first bit of Doctor Who news, which is titled Ncuti Gatwa's New Sonic, which I will be talking about next, and his sonic screwdriver. Ncuti describes various components of his sonic, which includes a Rwandan proverb written in Gallifreyan. This proverb translates as the sharpness of the tongue defeats the sharpness of the warrior. Next up will be my first classic Doctor review, which is for the colorization of the first Dalek story, the Daleks. So I'll be reviewing the Daleks colorization next. So yeah, it is now time for my first review of Classic Doctor Who. So on the channel, you will have known that for season 2 of the podcast, I reviewed series 1 to the 2005 series all the way to the 2022 series, ending with the Power of the Doctor. I did them pretty much as close together as possible, and then what I did is I then reviewed the Star Beast, the first Doctor Who 60th anniversary special in season 2, and then because of finale week and I wanted to finish everything off. In season 3, so you've already seen these, I've reviewed the Wild Yonder. I don't know if you've seen the review for the Giggle yet, or you probably haven't seen the review for the Church on Ruby Road, but they're both done. Uh, so yes, you've got that to look forward to as well, potentially. And if you haven't watched any of my other reviews, you can go and check them out. They're all on the channel. But yes, it's my first review of Classic Doctor Who. Now, what do I mean when I say Classic Doctor Who? Now, on the 23rd of November, 1963, the first episode of Doctor Who aired, which titled Unearthly Child. I'm not going to review that because I can't currently watch it due to rights things. So instead, I'm going to start by looking at the Daleks colorization review. No, I'm going to review the Daleks colorization. I can't watch a review. Well, I could, but it wouldn't be my beat. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it finished. So we had with William Hartnell as the Doctor, and in 1989, the BBC stupidly cancelled Doctor Who with Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor. So that's Classic Who with a TV movie made in America starring Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor. That's right. Which was in 1996. So 1963 to 1996 is classic Doctor Who. And then we've got 2005 to 2022, which is modern Doctor Who. And 2023 onwards is New Who, or New. I don't even know what to call it. New Modern Doctor Who? I don't know. Anyway, let me know what I should refer to it as in the comments below. But yes, it is. So I've explained what Classic Doctor Who is. So yes, I've explained why the first story I'm going to talk about is Dark Colourisation. I should mention that for my Classic Doctor Who, I'm not going to talk about every single story because that would take me months and months and months, and I want to do other things within these bonus episodes. The reason why I decided to make these bonus episodes was I could cover more things, and and also it would mean the daily episode stuff would be what's the word would be very would be quite recent. So like when I was working out, like in the future, I will be reviewing Echo, which when you're seeing this, but it's probably out on Disney Plus. I wanted to review that, but when I was looking at it and I wanted to do all the Doctor Who news catch up, it was looking like it would have been April, which was like that's not right. So how can I do? How can I get the best of both worlds? How can I cover everything I want to cover, but get it out as quick as possible? So this is the compromise. Sounds like it's plan B, but yeah, this is the choice that I made. So yes, before I get into the review of the Daleks colorization, the colorization was available was broadcast on the 23rd of November 2023, not today, 23. The original story premiered about 60 years earlier than that. So the first part, titled The Dead Planet, came out on the 21st of December 1963. From The Survivors came out on the 28th of December 1963. The Escape came out on the 4th of January 1964. The Ambush came out on the 11th of January 1964. The Expedition came out on the 18th of January 1964. The Ordeal came out on the 25th of January 1964. And The Rescue came out on the 1st of February 1964. Next up, well, that right now actually, is my review of the Daleks Colourisation. So we have the universe intro, which, as we know, is what they use now for anything going forward from the 1st of November 2023. I think that's right. Then we've got the Doctor Who theme tune, as always. Then the TARDIS materialises with the Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara exiting to explore their new surroundings. The Doctor and Barbara pick up soil. Ian finds a new stone. The Doctor tries to explain their new surroundings. Barbara asks Ian if he knows where they are. He doesn't. They talk about the Doctor not taking them home. Susan finds a flower. Ian finds a city. The Doctor, Susan and Ian use binoculars to get a better look at the city. Barbara tells the Doctor that they are returning to the TARDIS. The Doctor disagrees. They all return to the TARDIS. The radiation level has reached dangerous within the TARDIS. The Doctor disregards Barbara and Ian's feelings about the current predicament. The TARDIS is shaking. The TARDIS won't set off. The Doctor convinces Ian and Barbara to go to the city to fix a component of the TARDIS. They exit the TARDIS the following morning. They find a box containing glass files. The Doctor sits down after all the walking through the city. Ian and Barbara separate from the Doctor and Susan. Barbara is seemingly trapped. Barbara starts to panic. Something has captured Barbara with the Doctor, Susan and Ian only hearing a scream. The Doctor, Susan and Ian discover the dangerous radiation level. The Doctor tells Ian and Susan that he lied to them and Barbara about the TARDIS being broken. The Doctor tries to abandon Barbara and Ian. The Doctor, Susan and Ian are cornered by multiple Daleks. Ian tries to escape but gets paralysed for his attempted escape. Barbara reunites with the Doctor, Susan and Ian. Ian tells Barbara about them all being poisoned by radiation. The Doctor is threatened by multiple Daleks. The Doctor believes the Doctor is a Thal. The Daleks don't understand what a TARDIS is. The Daleks agree to a plan suggested by the Doctor. The Daleks tell the Doctor about a war between the Thals and the Daleks. Barbara and Susan help Ian get up. Ian walks on his own before collapsing to the floor. The Doctor reunites with Susan, Ian and Barbara. The Doctor tells them about the agreement he made with the Daleks. Ian volunteers to go to the city to save himself as well as the Doctor, Susan and Barbara. Susan takes Ian's place due to Ian being unable to walk by himself. One of the Daleks tells the other Daleks that Susan is on her way. The Daleks are planning on tricking the Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara. Ian tells Barbara to rest. Susan finds the TARDIS. Susan opens the TARDIS. Susan remembers the advice Ian gave her before she left. Susan embarks on returning to where the Doctor, Ian and Barbara are. Susan meets Thal. Susan tells the Thal about the Doctor, Barbara and Ian being ill. The Thal reveals he was the one to give them the anti-radiation drugs Ian found outside the TARDIS. The Thal asks Susan to trust him. The Thal explains the reason for the radiation. Barbara and Ian have seemed to recover after receiving the drug, as does the Doctor, but at a slower rate to Ian and Barbara due to his age, presumably, or with the Doctor obviously not being human. The Thals find the TARDIS. Susan tells the Doctor, Ian and Barbara about the Thals. The Doctor listens. No, the Daleks listen in on Susan's conversation with the Doctor, Ian and Barbara. The Doctor investigates the amount of metal within the room Susan, Ian and Barbara are imprisoned in. Susan, Ian and Barbara help the Doctor hatch a plan. The Thals receive an agreement from Susan. Susan takes some food from a Dalek. Ian and Barbara propose a plan to distract the Daleks and escape their prison. This plan involves jamming the door, which is successful. The Doctor and Ian manage to distract the Dalek, giving Barbara and Susan the time to complete their plan. They've completed their plan. Ian attempts to get into the Dalek. Ian succeeds. The Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara try to trick the Daleks. The Doctor, Susan and Barbara try to get Ian out of the Dalek. Sorry. They are unsuccessful. The Daleks are after the Doctor, Susan, and Barbara. They manage to escape from the Daleks' grasp. They do this by getting into a lift. The Dalek Ian was in is empty. Ian reunites with the Doctor, Susan, and Barbara. The Doctor knows where they are. The Doctor, Susan, Ian, and Barbara work out the Daleks' plan. The Thals have entered the building occupied by the Daleks. The Thals try to find the Daleks. Ian tries to warn the Thals. The Daleks exterminate one of the Thals. The Daleks re-evaluate their plan. The Doctor talks to the Thals. The planet of the Thals and Daleks is Skaro. The Thals thank Ian. Barbara questions the Thals' plan of running away. The Doctor tries to stop Ian from helping the Thals. Ian has lost a component of the TARDIS and is now in Dalek possession. The Thals tell the Doctor, Susan, Ian, and Barbara about the history of Skaro, Ian, and the war between the Daleks and the Thals. Ian tries to trick the Thals into fighting the Daleks. One of the Thals punches Ian. Ian's plan has worked. The Daleks realise that they are in danger of death. The Daleks plan on exploding a bomb. The Thals agree to help the Doctor, Susan, Ian, and Barbara. The Doctor comes up with a plan with the Thals. Him, Susan, Ian, and Barbara being divided into two different groups. The Doctor and Susan are in one group, with Ian and Barbara in the other. The Thals convince Ian and Barbara to rest. One of the Thals in Ian and Barbara's group is eaten by a wormhole. Ian and Barbara separate from each other. Barbara slips over. Ian and Barbara reunite. Barbara blames himself for a trap Thal. The Daleks seem to be panicking. The Thals, Ian and Barbara have to jump over a gap. The Doctor works out the Daleks have electricity. The Doctor uses the key to the TARDIS to stop the Daleks. Some of the Thals, Ian and Barbara, manage to jump over the gap. The Daleks realise the Doctor has sabotaged their machines before the Doctor and Susan are captured by the Daleks. The last Thal doesn't manage to jump over the gap and is left clinging onto a rock for dear life. The Daleks question the Doctor and Susan, who do the same to the Daleks. The Thal lets himself fall to his death. The Doctor insults the Daleks. The Thals realise the Daleks have captured the Doctor and Susan. The Thals, Ian and Barbara have managed to enter the Dalek city. The Doctor tells the Daleks about the TARDIS. The Thal tells Ian and Barbara that the Daleks have captured the Doctor and Susan. Barbara manages to escape being stuck between the door and the floor. Another Thal is exterminated by the Daleks. The Doctor and Susan are powerless to stop the Daleks. Ian and a Thal try to set the Doctor and Susan free. The Daleks exterminate multiple Thals. A Dalek begs for the Doctor's help. The Doctor gives the Thals some advice, and the Doctor, Susan, Ian, and Barbara leave Skaro. That is my review of the Daleks' Colourisation. Next up will be my review of a video that was released titled Becoming the Toymaker. So that's right. Next up is my review of Becoming the Toymaker, which is where Neil Patrick Harris, who plays the Toymaker and played the Toymaker in The Giggle, talks about the role of the Toymaker. Here's my review for Becoming the Toymaker. Neil Patrick Harris talks about playing the Toymaker. Neil talks about the Toymaker's various costumes as featured in The Giggle. Pam Down, costume designer, talks about making the Toymaker's costumes. What am I up to? Yes, Neil and Brian Fisher talk about puppeteering. Neil talks about the scene where the Toymaker has possession of the galvanic beam unit tower. Neil also mentions playing catch, performing a dance sequence to spice up your life, and delivering even a monologue while shuffling playing cards. That is my review of Becoming the Toymaker. Still on the Toymaker theme, next up I will be reviewing the 1966 story titled The Celestial Toymaker. Next up is my review of The Celestial Toymaker, which prior to The Giggle was the only on-screen appearance of the Toymaker, the Celestial Toymaker, whatever you want to call them, which I'm going to talk about right now. But before I get to my review, we're going to talk about the broadcast dates and something different and why this review will be shorter to like my review of the Daleks Colourisation was. So the broadcast dates for the original Celestial Toymaker story was The Celestial Toymaker, which was part 1 on the 2nd of April 1966, The Hall of Dolls, part 2 on the 9th of April 1966, The Dancing Floor, part 3 on the 16th of April 1966, and The Final Test, part 4 on the 23rd of April 1966. Now, part 1, The Celestial Toy Room, part 2, The Hall of Dolls, and part 3, The Dancing Floor, are missing, but the final test part 4. Now, I've talked about it previously that there is an animation for this Dual Toymaker. I haven't decided if I'm going to get it yet. If I am, then I might re-review this because it'll be a bit longer, won't it? Because I've only done part 4. But yes, here is my review of part 4, the final test of the Celestial Toymaker review. So here's my review for the Celestial Toymaker story, but it only includes part 4, the final test, because it's the only part currently available. It starts with the theme tune. The Celestial Toymaker has kidnapped the TARDIS. The game Stephen is playing could end up with him getting killed. The Doctor is playing a game against the Toymaker. The Toymaker is watching Stephen play his game. The Toymaker appears in Stephen's game. The Toymaker tricks Stephen. The Doctor insults the Toymaker. Stephen seems to have lost his game until his opponent is burnt. Stephen wins his game. The Doctor wins his game. The Doctor and Stephen reunite. The Toymaker Let's try it again. The Toymaker interrupts the Doctor and Stephen. The Doctor ignores the Toymaker until he tells Stephen the truth. Stephen punches himself with some tricks from the Toymaker. The Doctor tells Stephen that the Toymaker is immortal and can never die. The Doctor hatches a plan to escape the Toymaker's world and return to the real world. The Doctor tricks the Toymaker and leaves with Stephen. The Doctor and Stephen celebrate defeating the Toymaker. So yes, that is my review of the Celestial Toymaker. Only includes part 4, the final test, due to that's the only part of the story that is available. But next up, I'll be talking about the quickfire questions with David and Catherine video that has been released. Next up, which is actually the final segment of this bonus episode, I'll be talking about the video which is titled Quickfire Questions with David and Catherine. So in this video, David Tennant and Catherine Tate are asked multiple questions, which includes their favourite scene to film, how they drink their coffee, the best Doctor or Donna line, what scene they never believed they would film, the scene that they laughed during the most during probably make more grammatical sense, which scene with each other distracts them the most challenging scene, and a secret about each other. So that is my rundown of the quickfire questions with David Tennant and Catherine Tate video. So yeah, that's it for the second bonus episode of the Everything podcast. There will be another one, and they should keep coming. I don't know, because there's a bit in this where I've talked about the giggle, so I've got to make sure that my review for the giggle comes out before this second bonus episode does. So if I've done it right, you should have seen my review for the giggle, and this episode should be immediately after. So yeah, there's been two Doctor Who reviews. For classic Doctor Who reviews, we talked about the Daleks Colourisation and the Celestial Toymaker. I reviewed both of those stories. I also did lots of catch-up news. We talked about Shooting Atwa's new sonic screwdriver, or the new sonic screwdriver for the 15th Doctor. We talked about quickfire questions with David and Catherine. What else did we talk about? Is that it? I thought we had something else we talked about, or didn't we? Was that it? Oh yes, and Becoming the Toymaker, the video that was released after the giggle, where Neil Patrick Harris talks about playing this Toymaker featured in the giggle. So let me know in the comments below what your favourite part of what I've talked about in this bonus episode is, and also in the comments below, let me know what you would like me to include in maybe the daily episodes as well, or these bonus episodes, or both. Let me know that as well. Remember, you can also like and subscribe. And that's it for the second bonus episode of the Everything podcast. Goodbye.